My name's Carl Baumer. I was a helicopter mechanic. I became a crew chief on the CH-46. I retired after 20 years and 28 days as a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. For the first 15 years of my career, I flew all over the world. By the time I got done, I had visited 41 different countries in my 20 years in the Marine Corps, flown over probably at least half of those. As I told all my friends and some of my Marines that worked for me, is I bought into the Marine Corps lock, stock, and barrel. My first combat tour was March of '03. Ended up going back to 364 for my last 2 years. They went back over on a deployment to Iraq. It ended up being 7.5 months. We were the casualty evacuation squadron. We lifted the dead, dying, and injured. Saw a lot of wounded, a lot of fighting. Left Iraq, came back home. Unfortunately, I knew that somewhere in my career I'd have to pick between my family and the Marine Corps. And my family always came first. I retired, got out in November of 2006. The next tour that I would have been on, one of the helicopters got shot down and all 7 people on board were lost. And they were good friends of mine. Up until this time, had no idea that PTSD was ever part of my life. One day we went to a town called Morton, Washington, getting ready to have a parade start. I was sitting on a curb, the wife was behind me, and to start off the parade, they did the early warning system for severe weather. It sounds exactly like the incoming mortar siren. As soon as that went off, I curled up into a ball, put my head between my legs, closed my eyes. I couldn't move. Finally, it seemed after like forever, it stopped. I popped my head up, and the first thing in my mind was, there's no way this is happening to me. And that's when I started to realize I had post-traumatic stress. So I started doing changes. I started going to counseling. A friend of mine who has a veterans camp in Branson, Missouri called Gummy Camp USA. It stands for Glad You Made It. And that's when I started getting up in front of crowds and started talking, telling my story. Come to find out that one of the best therapies for veterans with PTSD is to be around other veterans that have PTSD, and you can talk, get your mind off of it, reminisce. During that time, became friends on Facebook with a guy by the name of Brian Spiritus, who I'd actually served with in Okinawa, Japan. Found out that the helicopter was down here in Houston, which our winter home is in northern Houston, about an hour from here. And I called him and said, what's going on? What are you guys doing? He told me about the museum, flying the helicopter. They're always looking for people to help. And it's like, this is perfect. Came down here, met Ed Ferris, the president of the museum, and we started talking. They didn't have anybody that could do the paperwork. One of my jobs in the Marine Corps was the paperwork on the 46. So it was kind of like a fit. This helicopter is nicknamed Pedro because Pedro is the call sign for the 46th Search and Rescue Squadron in the Marine Corps. The 46 has a unique attraction for those that have worked on her in the Marine Corps and spent a lot of time on her, whether it's 4 years or whether it's 20 or 30 years. There is a very strange love for this aircraft. It brings back a lot of memories. There's a lot of buddies here that I served with in the Marine Corps, some I even went to combat with. By being a part of this with the museum, I get to go back into training mode as a crew chief, as a mechanic. She also affords the opportunity to get some stress relief if I'm having a bad day. I know that I can come down here, grab a rag, start wiping her down. I can start doing work on her. The brotherhood, the fellowship with all our fellow vets and with Marines specifically for me, it's a unique opportunity. That was one of the mistakes I made when I got out. I left the Marine Corps when I got out. I didn't talk or hang around any veterans 7 to 9 years. Flying brings back a lot of memories, not just the war part, but it's a lifestyle that I absolutely love. She brings it back for me. After years of not knowing what post-traumatic stress was, this helps me out greatly to handle it and to keep it under control. I will never get rid of post-traumatic stress. You can't get rid of it. You can only learn to live with it. Civilians can kind of sort of have an understanding of what you're going through, but it's hard for them to understand, whereas you can walk up to a veteran and they'll know right away. It's an instant connection. And the museum here does exactly that. It preserves the history of our military from World War II all the way up. And it's a great way to bring us together, to have us do something that is more of like a team aspect to bring us together. It's my medication that I need. And I see a lot of the other veterans do it too. Everybody's out here because it means something to them in one way, shape, or form. What the meaning is for everybody, I think a lot of it has to do with camaraderie, just being around fellow veterans. Like I said, the love of the aircraft for me. Unfortunately, we all have other lives, so we all can't be together every single Saturday. But I know this, if we ever get called up to go help, people will drop to do what has to be done.